Part 86. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 851. The atmosphere in the spaceship that had just escaped from the unknown planet was quite cheerful. Several passengers high-fived each other in celebration. It's a pity that there are no women, otherwise there might be a celebratory kiss or something. Reddick, is there a nearby star map on the spacecraft? Where is the nearest supply point? Of course we do. The nearest supply point can be reached in about 4 days. We have enough supplies and energy. Great. After listening to the conversation between Johns and Reddick, several other people cheered loudly. I can finally escape. Oblivious to the spark between Johns and Reddick, the two of them stared at each other again. Boy John, do you still want to exchange me for the bounty? Reddick was not afraid of getting into trouble and directly provoked Johns. Haha, John sneered, seriously, I'm tired of chasing you. From now on, let's stay on the same page. Really? Do you need me to thank the Lord for your kindness? How much is it worth to catch me? Reddick still used a strange emphasis and continued to test on the road to death. Get lost. Johns looked annoyed. He just said he didn't want to continue chasing Reddick, which was true. I have been chasing him for many years and failed countless times. I finally caught him this time, but something like this happened again. Too bad luck. Johns wondered if this Reddick had some kind of lucky halo to protect him. So he really didn't want to continue. If you want to make money, there are many wanted criminals in the universe who are easier to catch than Reddick. Why have unrequited love for a flower? But Reddick has the opposite idea. He doesn't like the dull life, and what he loves most is the excitement of walking on a blade. It is actually quite interesting to have such a bounty hunter who is far superior to his peers to hunt him down. Much more fun than other bounty hunters. That's why he provokes the other party unscrupulously. In Lu Xiaoming's view, Reddick really deserves a beating. Just when the Insect King was about to use the splitting muscles and bones to teach Reddick a lesson, a sense of crisis suddenly surged into his heart. Phi Pan, what's going on? In the vast universe, the probability of encountering another spaceship in such an unmanned galaxy is very low. However, at this moment, a space fleet suddenly appeared in front of their small spaceship. To be precise, it was just a small patrol consisting of dozens of warships. The shape and style of the battleships are very strange. Several large battleships actually have huge human faces on their sides. Not very pretty. The entire fleet has a thick metallic texture, is extremely gray in color, and exudes an extremely cold aura. Naturally, the other party also discovered their small spaceship. An ordinary patrol team, as long as they are not performing secret missions. In such an unknown area, one would not pay attention to such a small spaceship. However, this fleet actually ignored it. 3 small space airships were also dispatched and flew straight towards Xiaoming and the others. Several passengers immediately panicked. Facing the army, what can this spaceship do without even loading weapons? Of course he raised his hands in surrender. At this time, even Reddick couldn't recognize the opponent's approach. But a name popped out of John's mouth, Messenger of Death. Messenger of Death. Are you sure? Damn. How could we meet these madmen? It's all over now. One passenger seemed to have heard rumors about the Deathbringer and was frightened out of his wits. He kept mumbling depressing words. The others didn't know why and looked at each other. When a man is about to die, his words are kind. When a bird is about to die, his cries are sad. Faced with this critical moment, Johns, who was originally selfish, also took the initiative to share the information he knew. Hope it helps a few people. When we encounter the Messenger of Death, we are indeed unlucky. We have just emerged from the tiger's mouth and entered the wolf's den again. This bounty hunter, who had always been a confident and slow man, now looked as dark as the bottom of a pot. Just listen to him say in a heavy tone. The Death Messengers are a terrifying organization in the universe. If you encounter them, you will basically be dead. Huh, a passenger felt strange when he heard this. This statement seems to make sense. Indeed, this basis is very similar to what some Greenpeace organizations say. Brother, you are so naive. This is just the beginning. Johns patted the man on the shoulder and then said. They think. Hiss. The passenger took a breath and said, this sounds a bit mean. Could it be? You guessed it right, it's a burp. I'll go. I bought a watch last year, several people yelled at the same time. This is terrible. I'm most afraid of meeting this kind of person. Why is that Chinese named King Lu missing? Several people have discovered that Lu Xiaoming has quietly disappeared from the spacecraft. But before he had time to think about it, the Death Messenger's combat airship had already surrounded him. The, relatively, huge muzzle is aimed at the front of the spacecraft. Where did Xiaoming go? In fact, he didn't run very far. With limited strength, it is difficult to get away and escape. Wormhole cannot be used in this world. The transmission distance of the avatar technique is limited, which makes it difficult to use in space. The Insect King is actually in the battle airship opposite now, but in a state of invisibility. The highest limit of this universe is sea level. Except for those with extraordinary talents, no one can detect Xiaoming in the invisible state. There is a type of soldier among the Death Messengers who always walks half-crouched, and seems to have a periscope on his head. It is probably a reconnaissance type of soldier. Xiaoming deliberately showed off in front of him, but he couldn't see it at all. The Insect King is safe. The others in the spaceship don't have this kind of stealth ability. Everyone, including the two masters, surrendered obediently and became prisoners of the Death Messenger. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 852. The Death Messengers of this fleet just happened to pass by here and captured someone when they saw him. Anyway, their sect always needs fresh blood. The Death Messengers did not encounter any resistance. Even Johns and Reddick, who could fight against the other side, behaved very well under the gunpoint. They also obediently handed over their guns. They knew very well that even if they killed all the Death Messengers who came to capture them now, it would be useless. If they fired over there, everyone would still be finished. It is meaningless to resist the warship in space. For now, they can only surrender and find another opportunity to escape later. Fortunately, this is just a patrol team. They did not carry equipment to transform humans into Death Messengers. So all the captives were anesthetized and imprisoned. The Death Messengers planned to transform these people after they joined the main fleet. Little did they know that a strange variable had been mixed into the fleet. In less than half a day, it seemed that nothing had changed on the surface. Secretly, these captives had been replaced by shadow clones. In fact, Reddick and the others just escaped under the threat of death, and they didn't commit any serious crimes. When they were captured just now, they were also a little loyal and didn't tell anyone that there were still humans on the planet below. Once they told them, the patrol team probably wouldn't mind capturing more people. Since they retained the last bit of loyalty, Xiaoming was willing to help them. It was actually very simple to rescue them, even simpler than putting an elephant in a refrigerator. The first step was to release 9 shadow clones. The second step was for the shadow clones to use the transformation technique to become the appearance of these people. The third step was to use the substitute technique to exchange. All done. In addition, Xiaoming also learned his lesson this time. He didn't put these people in Guangmingding. Instead, he transferred them through Guangmingding and temporarily stored them in the underground fortress built by Huang Xiaoming. Green Xiaoming continued to stay invisible on the Death Messenger's spaceship. He planned to see what this evil sect looked like. 9 people who were in coma were lying on the ground in a mess. Huang Xiaoming looked at them and suddenly showed a sly smile. At the same time, Yin Xiaoming, who was chatting with Wu Ling, immediately understood. Back then, the Yulinling group in high school was three tall girls who loved sports. Originally, they had nothing in common with Xiaoming, a geek who was only 1.7 meters tall when wearing shoes. They were just nodding acquaintances. However, the new Han Kingdom has a strict requirement for high schools. The athletes of the high school team must pass every course. This is also a declaration to the society that the high schools of the new Han Kingdom do not want to cultivate athletes with strong limbs and simple minds. They must be well-rounded. However, some students plan to develop on the path of athletes from the beginning. They have never worked hard to study since childhood. In the Yulinling group, only Gan Lin is both civil and military, and her academic performance is quite good. Gu Yao and Wu Ling's grades, tut, are simply terrible. Xiaoming happened to be doing well in school, mainly because he was a very patient person and explained the questions to others very clearly. So the head teacher arranged for him to tutor Wu Ling. He was quite considerate of Xiaoming, as Wu Ling, who was 1.8 meters tall, was the shortest in the group. This kind of tutoring was one-on-one. Gu Yao had other classmates to help. Thanks to Xiaoming's efforts, Wu Ling was finally not dragged down by her schoolwork. As a result, the relationship between her and Xiaoming was quite good. In addition, Gu Yao, Gan Lin, and Xiaoming all had some friendship. However, from the bottom of their hearts, they still looked down on the weak Xiaoming. The word look down here does not mean to look down on him, it's just that they have different interests and are not in sync. After graduating from high school, they were admitted to different universities based on their achievements in volleyball. Among them, Gan Lin had the most comprehensive and outstanding skills and good academic performance, and was fortunate to be specially admitted to Zhongduchang'an Royal College. While attending university, he also joined the volleyball team of Zhongduchang'an. Everyone understands this operation. Academic performance is no longer important. As long as she can help the team achieve good results, it is a matter of words what diploma she will graduate with in the future. Moreover, Gan Lin is quite beautiful. If she is thrown out to be a star, she can definitely crush more than 80% of film and television female stars. This is a typical child of other people's families. She is good at studying and can enter the university, she is good at sports and can join the national team, she is also beautiful. Alas, how can others live with this? Gu Yao also entered the Nanjing Military University of Southern Capital as a special athlete. She plays volleyball with the dual identities of a soldier and a student. In fact, it is not that they do not want to recruit Gan Lin, but the conditions they offer cannot be compared with those of Chang'an Royal Academy. Wu Ling is more difficult than Gu Yao. Her height is considered high among ordinary people, but she is relatively short in the volleyball team. Although Gu Yao's skills are still rough, her skills can be practiced, but her height cannot be changed. The 2-meter-tall man makes Gu Yao very popular. Wu Ling did not have such a good treatment. In the end, she was not selected by any university in any of the 5 capitals and 6 capitals. Instead, he joined a volleyball team in an ordinary province and got a college diploma. Although he was better than many people, he was far behind his 2 sisters. After graduating from high school, time passed and Xiaoming failed to keep in touch with them. He had no interest in sports and didn't know what happened to them. Although I met the Yulinling trio in the special mission last time. But the operators were not themselves, so they could not be counted. This time, Xiaoming was moved by meeting Gan Lin and Wu Ling in the reincarnation world. Old classmates finally met, so they would chat often. Now everyone is in their 30s. According to Wu Ling, Gan Lin is married. She has made great achievements in volleyball. Her career and family are going well. Gu Yao and Wu Ling are both single dogs. Gu Yao is too tall and it is really difficult to find a partner. Wu Ling did not mention her own situation. Looking at her life energy, Xiaoming did not ask any more questions. The two quickly talked about telekinesis. Perhaps the memory of teaching her lessons before has penetrated into Xiaoming's bones. She unconsciously entered the teaching mode. Wu Ling was the same, and she automatically and consciously entered the learning mode. She was not surprised at all about Zhang Xiaoming's familiarity with telekinesis. After learning that Johns, Reddick, and others were sent back, Xiaoming temporarily stopped teaching. Let Wu Ling go back and continue to practice telekinesis with the heart source flow. Yin Xiaoming went invisible and quietly left the survivors' camp and headed for the abandoned camp. A few days later, Reddick, Johns and others gradually woke up. Looking at the familiar warehouse, their minds were in a mess. What the hell is this? Why are you back again? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 853. Xiaoming let this group of people be like headless flies, in chaos for a long time. Then he sent a voice to briefly explain the situation. Johns and Reddick looked at each other, and they were shocked. Their minds were strong enough, so they knew that being caught by the death messenger before was definitely not a dream. When everyone was in chaos just now, some people were also speculating whether there was a gas with a soul-stirring effect here, which made everyone collectively hallucinate. Many people thought it made sense. Only Johns and Reddick sneered. They could tell the difference between reality and hallucinations caused by drugs. Unfortunately, they couldn't convince others. People who pretend to sleep can't be awakened. Until Xiaoming's voice appeared out of thin air at the end, everyone woke up. After the 9 of them were caught by the death messenger, Johns and Reddick secretly waited for an opportunity to resist. When they reached the interior of the enemy spaceship, the death messenger could not fire at will. With the skills of Reddick and Johns, the chance of running away is still very high. And they also noticed that the mysterious King Lu, who delivered the battery at the critical moment, disappeared. He was not caught with them. Since he was not caught, he would probably come to save them. However, what they never expected was that King Lu not only saved them, but also sent them directly back to this unknown planet. Compared with the Death Messenger's spaceship and the unknown planet, this planet is of course better. They will regret it soon. The two even thought greedily that it would be better if they could be sent to a prosperous planet. Xiaoming really doesn't have this ability. Unless Xiaoming himself arrives at another planet, he can send them there. But that also requires Xiaoming's willingness. Xiaoming just doesn't think they deserve to die, but he doesn't like their character. How can he give such a good treatment? At this time, it had been several days since the spaceship landed on this planet. The anesthetic used by the death messenger was very strong, making them unconscious for so many days. The survivors on the spaceship thought they were missing. They didn't dare to send anyone to check in this direction. That's why they were in a coma and were not discovered. Xiaoming's voice transmission made them feel at ease. Since no one noticed their escape, it seemed that they could just go back like this. Gurgle, the stomachs of several people were growling. After all, they hadn't eaten for several days. They rushed out of the warehouse at the same time, each chose a house that looked good, rushed in, and frantically searched through the boxes and cabinets. This camp has been abandoned for 22 years, and there must be no fresh food at all. However, some canned food of humans can still be found. In this world, the level of human technology is very high, and the shelf life of canned food is surprisingly long. Finally, they found something for them, shared it, and didn't starve to death. Canned food is not on the monster's menu. Suddenly, the sky outside darkened. This is strange, and several people hurried out to see. In the sky, a huge planet glided slowly, and there was a ring around the planet. The planet gradually obscured the two suns in that direction. The shadow made the planet, which had always maintained strong light, gradually darken. Wow! It turns out that there is also night here. Great, I am almost sunburned, said one person. Shut up. Before he finished speaking, he was scolded by Johns and Reddick. Listen. Everyone listened attentively, and seemed to hear something, and there seemed to be no sound. Suddenly, Reddick took off his sunglasses and pointed to the distance and said, "We are in trouble." Everyone looked in the direction he pointed. It was vaguely recognized that it was a strange conical mountain that was seen at the beginning. Looking at it again at this time, it seemed that a large piece of smoke was spreading from the top of the mountain. It was too dark to see clearly what it was. Johns knew that Reddick's eyes had undergone special surgery and could see in the dark. He quickly asked, "Reddick, what did you see?" Reddick said again with a face that deserved a beating, "It seems that you don't need to be wary of me anymore. The master of this planet has finally appeared. We are in big trouble." Before he finished speaking, a cloud rushed towards the crowd. 2 seconds later, everyone finally confirmed that it was a group of flying creatures. They rushed straight towards themselves and others, and they didn't look like they were coming to act cute. "Run!" Reddick shouted, and ran to the warehouse behind, followed by everyone. Those who can join the reconnaissance team have good physical strength. At least the level between level 1 and level 2. They should have been able to run back to the warehouse in time. However, the more urgent the moment, the easier it is for people to make mistakes. In the desolate, a person stepped on a stone, his footing was unstable, and he fell to the side. It didn't matter that he fell to the ground, but the people following behind him were unable to dodge and were also tripped by his body and bitten a mouthful of mud. When the two struggled to get up, the pigeon-sized flying creatures rushed over and swept their bodies into the air. A large amount of blood plasma was spilled, and the bodies of the two were torn into pieces, and each piece of flesh was snatched away by different groups. Oh my! It turned out to be a carnivore. Seeing the tragic death of the two, Johns quickly closed the door of the warehouse. Dozens of monsters rushed over and could not stop, banging against the door with a series of clanging sounds. It was obvious that they were hit hard. WTF? What are those things? How can there be such man-eating monsters on this planet? One team member was already hysterical. Originally, everyone had weapons. However, when they were captured by the Death Messenger, all weapons were naturally confiscated. At this moment, they were almost unarmed. 2 or 3 of the people were already scared silly. Although the Death Messenger was scary, it was still a human being. If you surrendered, they would not kill you. But this group of monsters was different. They could not communicate. Even if you kneeled down and surrendered, you would probably still end up being eaten. Several other people were also rummaging around in the warehouse looking for weapons. Forget about guns. It would be good if they could find some steel pipes. At the same time, they also paid attention to the surrounding walls. If there were any damaged places, it would be troublesome. At this time, Yin Xiaoming was actually sitting on the roof of the warehouse invisibly. Although there were many monsters flying around, they couldn't find him. Seeing so many monsters flying out, Xiaoming was also shocked. He had killed so many monsters, why were there still so many left? He didn't react for a while, and the 2 people were killed by the monsters. It's okay if there are few people here, but what about the Hunter spaceship? Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 854. Xiaoming didn't know that in the original book, the number of monsters was more than double what it is now. He did kill a lot of them. However, the total number of monsters was too huge. It didn't make much difference to humans if more than half of them were missing. Even if there were only 1/10 of the current number, it would be enough to wipe out humans several times. Xiaoming didn't have to worry about John's and Reddick's group at all. The alloy walls of this warehouse were strong enough. As long as they didn't go out, they would be fine. The underground passage had been cleaned up by Xiaoming before. There were still many fluorescent lights below. If they searched carefully, they would definitely find the downward passage. This passage was dug out by the monsters 22 years ago in order to enter the warehouse and eat people. 22 years later, several humans escaped through this passage again. I have to say, it was quite dramatic. The spaceship was the real battlefield, and it would take time to pull everyone into the underground fortress. But Xiaoming had other plans. Huang Xiaoming immediately drove several children off Xiajia, which made Jack unhappy for a while. At this time, he could not care about this little Lolita anymore. Huang Xiaoming drove Xiajia and walked outside the cargo hold. He only saw that large groups of monsters were about to fly close. Because the entire planet has always been well lit. In the past few days, the spacecraft has obtained a lot of energy by receiving solar energy, which can be used for eating and boiling water. But no one prepared lighting equipment. Because it is not used at all. Fortunately, Xiaoming had prepared it in advance. At this time, even if Xiajia was fully fired, it could not stop many monsters. But turning on the lights was different. Xiaoming installed an extremely bright lighting equipment on Xiajia, and all of them were turned on at this time. In an instant, the area within a radius of several hundred meters was as bright as day. Several passengers had been caught up by the monsters and were about to be eaten as sashimi. As a result, the lights in front were bright, and the monsters were scared away at the sight of them. At the same time, most of the passengers were dazzled by the lights. The pain made them cry, but no one complained. It was better than being eaten by a monster. Owens and others reacted very quickly and took out lighting equipment from the spacecraft to illuminate some shadow areas one by one. Make sure there is no darkness in the camp. As long as there is enough energy, there is no need to worry about the safety of this group of people. Gray-red, Ba, Fi Hung, Puff, brilliant. Suddenly, a voice calling him came from under the mecha. Huang Xiaoming looked down and saw two girls who covered their eyes with their hands calling him. Hearing the voice, he knew it was Yu Linling. In the past few days, people came to Huang Xiaoming to see the mecha in an endless stream. Almost all the reincarnations of the Tan family team have come here, and Wu Ling and Gan Lin have also come. Of course, they didn't know that Huang Huiwang was Zhang Xiaoming, they just thought he was a plot character. Maybe he could issue tasks. Since everyone was Chinese, the two girls and Xiaoming chatted a little more. They also made a lot of jokes about the name Huang Huiwang, and now they took the initiative to come to ask for help. Please note that there are also rumors about Huang Fi Hung on Pangu Star. Of course, the version is definitely different from that on Earth. Mr. Huang. Hello. When public relations is needed, of course the more beautiful Gan Lin should come forward to negotiate. Wu Ling rubbed her hands anxiously on the side. Hey, it's you guys, is there something wrong? Huang Huiwang asked knowingly. It's like this, some of our teammates are still outside, you have actually seen them. Gan Lin raised his hand and pointed in a direction. He asked a little embarrassedly, do you think you can rescue them? We will definitely repay you a lot. Huang Xiaoming didn't know the specific situation of the Tan family team now, but he was not worried. Because Xiaoming knew where they went. Xiaoming has always arranged several shadow clones to move around the Tan family team. Provide protection. About 20 hours ago, the chameleon insect man Yaji, who was out for reconnaissance, discovered an underground passage. There were fluorescent lights everywhere inside. There were also some rotten monster corpses that were not harvested by Xiaoming. This discovery was so amazing that after he came back to report, Tan Guangwen immediately organized the team members to go underground for investigation. In the underground passage with light, what else is there to worry about? Tan Guangwen may think that the underground passage is too dusty, and the camp needs some people to guard it, so he left a few girls behind. At this moment, Yu Jingjing went to Owens and Fry for help, while Ganlin and Wu Ling ran to Huang Huiwang. As a bug man, Yu Jingjing's appearance is still quite peculiar. However, this world is already in the era of the universe. There are many strange humanoid races, and transformation surgery is also very common. Although the appearance of the bug man is a bit weird, it can be accepted. To be honest, Owens and others have also seen more peculiar transformations. With the big killer weapon of the glowing small armor, everyone is full of confidence. Owens and Fry, commanding everyone, continue to move more luminous equipment out of the spacecraft, layer by layer to ensure the safety around the spacecraft. In the original novel, there were few human survivors, and there was nothing useful in the spaceship. That's why they were beaten badly by the monsters. Now the spaceship is intact, and all the energy equipment is complete. Lighting is the simplest thing. Not to mention that there is already inventory in the spaceship. Even if these people assemble temporarily, they can quickly make a large number of light-emitting devices. Of course, if they are caught off guard by the monsters at the beginning, then humans will be very passive, and they may be wiped out. However, Xiaoming was well prepared and helped the humans block the first wave of monster attacks. Once humans stabilized their position, this kind of monster with obvious weaknesses was not worth mentioning at all. Not long after, a shining mecha ran out of the camp, and monsters dodged along the way. It was like startling a flock of gulls. Many people in the camp looked at the direction of the mecha, whispering and talking. Several children were still shouting, and no longer took the monsters hiding far away seriously. After watching Huang Huiwang drive the mecha away, Owens, Fry, Yu Jingjing, and others began to study the body of a monster. Before, although Zyajia was bright enough, the light was transmitted in a straight line. With only one light source, it was inevitable that shadow areas would be formed in several corners. There were a few monsters that were too greedy, lurking there waiting to ambush humans. As a result, they were attacked by the light of humans who came out with lighting equipment. They had no way to escape and were all bright to death. This way of death is quite unique. Seeing the monster's huge body, ferocious appearance, and sharp claws, several people took a breath of cold air. This thing is beyond human power to contend with, and the number of opponents is so large, the situation just now can be said to be critical. If Huang Huiwang hadn't appeared in time driving the mecha, the consequences would be disastrous. But how did he know that there was a monster here? How did he know that the monster was afraid of light? Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 855. A few dozen minutes later, on the dark surface of the planet, a huge light bulb met with more than a dozen smaller light bulbs. It was Huang Huiwang, who was driving the small armor, who met the Tan family team, Johns, Reddick, and his party who came back together. Everyone was shining brightly. The Tan family team went down the underground passage to explore the monster, and Reddick and others also found the entrance to the underground passage in the warehouse. They bumped around underground and met each other soon. Through Johns, the Tan family team also knew the situation on the ground. Although the monster was terrible, they were no longer worried at this time. The reason was simple. There were bright fluorescent lights everywhere in the underground passage. And there was not even a wire, each one had its own energy. With these fluorescent lights, what monsters were they afraid of? What they needed to worry about now was the situation at the spaceship camp. The Hunter was a commercial spaceship, and the equipment on it was not particularly advanced. But there was still a walkie-talkie. When Johns's reconnaissance team set off, Owens and his team handed the reconnaissance team a walkie-talkie. As a result, they took it with them on the spaceship when they escaped, and now it is no longer with them. After the Death Messenger captured them, he had no interest in their broken spaceship and directly destroyed it with a cannon. The intercom was shattered. The Tan family team went out to investigate, but did not inform Owens and others in advance, so Owens did not equip them with intercoms. If they were reincarnators from the same team, the Tan family team could also pass messages to each other through the team channel provided by the space. Unfortunately, the Tan family team only called themselves that, and never used the team contract. The reincarnation space does not recognize this as a team. So the group of people who went out completely lost contact with the survivors in the spaceship camp. They did not know that the crisis in the camp had been resolved by Xiaoming. The only ones who could guess were Tan Guangwen, Yeji, and 2 or 3 others. Tan Guangwen even guessed that the fluorescent lights in the underground passage might also be the work of Xiaoming. But because there were too many lights and the area covered was too large. This was a bit beyond imagination, so he was not very sure. At the same time, several shadow clones following the Tan family team and Yin Xiaoming who followed Reddick and others also unexpectedly reunited. Along the way, they did not encounter any situation that required Xiaoming to take action. Johns, Reddick, and others did not care much about the lives of the survivors in the spaceship camp. But the hope of escaping this planet lies in Owens and Fry. They must save these 2 people. And now with so many lights, there is no danger on the ground. Wouldn't it be better to go back quickly at this time? John said this idea, and Tan Guangwen also agreed. The mainline task 3 issued by the reincarnation space is to save as many survivors as possible. So these dozen people, each of them carried 3-7 fluorescent lamps. It is enough to keep 1 lamp on each person. The others are temporarily turned off and used later. At this time, they are still worried that the battery inside this lamp is so bright that it may not last long. But they don't know that the energy built into these lamps is Xiaoming's special hacker energy block. Each lamp can be lit for a long time. Of course, there is nothing wrong with saving some energy. After they escaped from this planet, except for Reddick who was not interested in money, everyone else made a fortune because of these fluorescent lamps. Johns, Owens, and others even organized a team, brought weapons and sufficient light sources, and came to this planet again. All the fluorescent lamps that Xiaoming scattered on the ground were taken back. As a result, the underground world of this planet was occupied by those monsters again. These are all later stories. At this moment, they ran into the robot driven by Huang Huiwang head-on. After a brief exchange, they knew that the spaceship was safe and no one died. It was a happy ending. So everyone returned to the spaceship camp together. Everyone discussed it and said, TNND, let's not wait. Who knows when the eclipse will end? The spaceship has been basically repaired now. Under the illumination of the fluorescent lamps, everyone worked together to take all the things in the camp back to the spaceship. Several mechanics quickly completed the finishing work. The energy was also sufficient. 5 hours later, under the illumination of fluorescent lights all over the ground, the Hunter spacecraft took off again and escaped from this messy planet. Although there are monsters here, no one has been killed. It is really difficult to describe this planet as horrible. However, Johns, Reddick and others all have a big secret in their hearts, the messenger of death. However, as long as they don't meet again, they don't intend to tell this matter to add to their troubles. All the main tasks have been completed, and the completion rate is very high. The 5 newcomers did not have any props and quickly left the mission world. Tan Guangwen, Yao Jie, Yu Jingjing, and Yang Yang did not skimp and used E-level mission cards. Each of them got more than 10 hours of time, which can be exchanged for rewards in this world. The goodwill between them and some crew members and passengers can be exchanged for skills that crew members or passengers know, or the items they carry. This is actually a way for space to reward reincarnations. Things obtained in the mission world are cheaper than when exchanged in the settlement space, and there are more types. As a result, the 4 of them came to Huang Huiwang at the same time, wanting to exchange mecha-related things from him. But Xiao Ming couldn't provide such exchange, so he could only play dumb and laugh it off. Several people thought that the favorability was not enough, so they gave up after trying it. They turned around and looked for other people. Reincarnationists have this advantage. Nothing is difficult in the world, as long as you are willing to give up. Of course, it's not that Xiao Ming can't take out something, but the items Xiao Ming took out are different from the props of space certification. If you show it to experienced reincarnationists, it will definitely be exposed, so you can only give nothing. When the time is up, Tan Guangwen and others left the Star Legend world with a satisfied smile. It seems that they have gained a lot. At about the same time, Reddick secretly drove away a small spaceship on the spacecraft and left without saying goodbye. Seeing that the crew and passengers should also enter the hibernation chamber, Yin Xiaoming, Huang Xiaoming, Zhang Ma, and Xiajia left quietly. They did not go to the spaceship of the Death Messenger through Guangmingding or Kunlun. Green Xiaoming is enough to watch the excitement over there. Don't put all your eggs in the same basket. If they all ran to the Death Messenger spaceship, what if there was danger there? They would be taken over soon. So Xiaoming summoned the transformer mind beast Zhang Ren. He could transform into a small spaceship, just right to carry a group of people around in the universe of this world. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 856. How long did it take in total? At first, it took about 7 or 8 days. Riding the Death Messenger patrol team of Green Xiaoming, they finally joined a squadron. Then, after another 10 days, the squadron mixed into a larger fleet. This repeated several times, and about 2 months later, they finally saw the main fleet of the Death Messenger. The slightly larger warships had 4 huge human faces cast at the stern, and they were ugly. Always looking at such faces, Xiaoming felt that it was a huge impact on his aesthetics. If he thought this face was good looking, then his life would be over, and there would be no value in living. During this period, Xiaoming continued to replenish the spiritual power of the trapped dragon wristband, which took a lot of effort. Don't get me wrong, the trapped dragon wristband does not require a lot of spiritual power, but in this world, Xiaoming's strength was suppressed to sea level. The spiritual power reserves in the body are very small, and the spiritual energy charged each time is very limited. So the charging behavior has to be more frequent. Fortunately, Xiaoming has never forgotten this matter. After spending so many days in the fleet, Xiaoming basically knows everything he should know. Moon reading is an A-level ability, which cannot be used in this world. The ability to enter dreams has actually reached B-level, which cannot be used either. Xiaoming had no choice but to use mental communication. Using some simple hypnosis skills during communication, he can also obtain a lot of information. The Death Messengers are basically a group of fanatical cultists, and their spirits are generally very firm. Although their mental power level is not high, it is difficult to hypnotize them. However, Xiaoming also has a lot of ways. He can use the illusion in ninjutsu to make the other party think that Xiaoming is a fellow cultist and is talking to them. Naturally, there is no consciousness of resistance, and many truths are also drawn out. As the fleet becomes larger and larger, the level of the leaders in the fleet is getting higher and higher. The level of information Xiaoming obtains is also getting higher and higher. The high-level leaders are not as devout as the lower-level believers in the teachings of the Death Messengers. Xiaoming squeezed out more information from them. The so-called transformation process of the Death Messengers is to remove people's pain nerves and attach mental hypnosis to make them become warriors who are not afraid of pain or death. For the Death Messengers, death is just going to the dark interstellar, to the place they want to go most. There is nothing to be afraid of. This makes the group of death messengers as scary as terrorists. They can easily launch a mutually destructive attack. No wonder they are notorious in the universe of this world, but no one dares to mess with them. The leader of the death messengers is called King Marshall. It is said that he is a person who has been to the dark interstellar and returned. He was a human when he went there, and he became a demigod when he came back. It is said that he can extract the souls of humans and kill them. He has lightning fast speed, and can see and hear everything, and cannot be attacked by anyone. However, Xiaoming is very skeptical about this statement. This world suppresses Xiaoming's attributes to the C level, i.e. 5th level. In other words, this world does not even have a B-level master, so how can there be a god? At most, it is a person with C-level ability. Extracting souls may be a means of some kind of undead magic. It is still a long way from becoming a god. As for being fast and not being attacked by surprise, Xiaoming can do it to this extent. It's nothing great. In addition, Xiaoming also heard that the death messenger has a very magical rule: you keep what you kill. In short, the winner is the king and plunders everything from the loser. If you kill someone, you can get everything from him, including his position in the death messenger. Therefore, in the death messenger group, it is not uncommon to challenge and kill your own leader to get the position. This behavior is not only allowed, but also regarded as a sacred behavior among the death messengers. Because the leader is killed, it is nothing more than going to the dark galaxy in advance, which is not considered a betrayal. The death messenger who comes later can better serve the doctrine. Xiaoming even met a pair of very interesting senior officials. Commander Wako's wife has dark skin, a graceful figure, beautiful and enchanting. But she is an absolute black rose with thorns. She actually tried her best to instigate her husband to kill King Marshall and become the leader of the death messenger. Being whispered to by such a charming wife every day. It's hard for the commander. And Wako is a big arrogant who says no but is honest in his soul. Although he repeatedly rebuked his wife for talking nonsense, his life energy told Xiaoming that this person has always wanted to replace King Marshall's head. If he was really so loyal, his wife probably wouldn't dare to keep whispering such things in his ear. There are too many death messengers. They don't produce, they don't build. All they do is kill and destroy. Of course, they don't really build anything. At least they have built a large number of warships, spaceships, weapons and equipment and the like. They are like pirates, and warships are their homes. They are always on the road of plunder and aggression. Every time they go to a place, they will completely suppress any resistance in the local area, transform the remaining people into death messengers, and kill those who don't obey. After plundering all the human supplies, they will use space weapons to destroy the life of the entire planet. Thoroughly implement their doctrines and send all life to the dark interstellar. In other words, kill them all, leaving no grass behind. Compared to them, the equally aggressive Zerg are several times better. Probably only the undead scourge can be compared to them. Such a cult army is a scourge to the entire universe. We really can't let them continue to kill. However, killing them all, let alone whether it can be done, is such a huge sin. Xiaoming feels that it is difficult to do it. Xiaoming certainly understands the principle of killing one person to save 1,000, but most of the death messengers were actually victims of the destroyed planet. After being cruelly tortured and brainwashed, they gradually degenerated into death messengers. There is also a pitiful side. Xiaoming thinks there should be a way to solve this problem by killing only the least number of people. Fortunately, they have this rule of the winner is the king, take everything. Xiaoming has a countermeasure. The first step is to challenge King Marshall, win the battle, and become the new king. But this is not enough. All the death messengers will ask the new king to lead them to the dark interstellar. That is to continue killing. So we must find a way to change the entire section. The best way is to transform all the death messengers into Zergmen. Faced with over 100 million death messengers, it is impossible to use the chimera ant's method of swallowing and laying eggs. Zergman evolution needle is the most suitable method. Just thinking about evolving so many people into Zergman makes Yao Ming's scalp numb. There is always a way to be lazy. I wish you all a happy new year and good fortune. Good people will have a safe life. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 857. Recently, King Marshall has been very irritable and anxious. For some reason, he always feels as if someone is secretly spying on him. The only person who usually does this kind of thing and makes him slightly uneasy is Commander Wacko. However, King Marshall believes that he is very capable and does not care too much about Wacko. Keeping him can also remind him frequently. At the same time, it can also suppress many other ambitious people. Even a commander as powerful as Wacko has not challenged the king yet. What are you in a hurry for? However, this time the feeling is completely different, as eerie and terrifying as a tarsal ulcer. The person who secretly peeks at him must have a serious threat to his ability. It is not comparable to Wacko's second-rate knife. King Marshall is very anxious in his heart, but he dare not show any signs on the surface. As a king, once he shows weakness, his subordinates will lose their awe of him. At that time, there will be more people coveting his throne, not just one Wacko. After more than 10 days of fear, King Marshall felt that he would either explode in silence or collapse in silence. Fortunately, the next target planet will arrive in a few days. By then, he can vent his anger and destroy the souls of a few hundred people. Maybe it will be fine. Who knew that at this time, a blind guy appeared? This guy was a person who had just been transformed into a death messenger. Not only was she a woman, but she was also a modified person. Looking at her body, she was probably implanted with scorpion genes and covered with insect-like exoskeleton armor. Behind her was a long scorpion tail, and the stinger at the tip was cold and cold. It was not easy to mess with her. Her name was Zazan. When she just joined, her strength was quite good. But she was still a level lower than King Marshall. So Marshall once planned to train Zazan to be his right-hand man, personal guard, or even queen. In King Marshall's view, men are generally ambitious, and women are still willing to rely on the strong. Such a woman, as long as I conquer her, she will definitely become my good wife. I never expected that this Zazan would challenge me in such a short time after joining. I am not mentally prepared. How much King Marshall valued Zazan at the beginning, how depressed he is now. A feeling of betrayal arises spontaneously. Observing Zazan's strength carefully again, he is still a level lower than me. He dares to challenge me at this level. He is really tired of living. The prophecy says that the one who will kill me in the future is a vengeance starman, not a cyborg. Zazan can't be a vengeance starman. So what should I be afraid of? Since I can't become a confidant, it's not bad to use him to kill chickens and scare monkeys. The battlefield was chosen in the largest hall of King Marshall's flagship. There are thousands of people around looking up to this challenge. All of them are senior leaders among the death messengers. There are also the king and the personal guards of the leaders. The other warships in the fleet are also broadcasting the live broadcast of this battle, and almost all the death messengers are looking up. This is what King Marshall meant. Take this opportunity to improve your self-confidence and prestige. Recently, I have been troubled by unknown enemies. King, I am honored to challenge you. May the glory of the Dark Star shine on us forever. The Scorpion girl bowed and saluted, and her words were very pious. All the death messengers have a better impression of this challenger. At this time, King Marshall performed just as perfectly and generously. Zazan, my dear child, I am also very pleased to accept your challenge. No matter who wins or loses, we will lead the death messengers to the Dark Star. King. Long live. Ah. In the entire fleet, Countless death messengers cheered for the two. The cheers in the hall were also deafening. Challenges are common among death messengers, but challenges to the king are rare. After all, the half-god and half-human King Marshal is an invincible existence in the eyes of the death messengers. After the polite words, King Marshal held a long spear and stabbed towards Zazan's heart, as powerful as a galloping horse. Zazan flicked his tail, pushed the spear away, and slashed at King Marshal's neck with the double swords in his hands. He used the Naga sword technique. Marshal was very fast, and he quickly turned behind Zazan and smashed down with the will spear. Zazan's tail also reacted very quickly, and swung back to directly block King Marshal's iron spear. The double swords in his hands turned around and swept towards the enemy behind him. Marshal quickly dodged again with the advantage of speed. He was already a little surprised and doubtful. The expression on his face also became serious. Then he attacked with the spear. These quick fights seemed to have the upper hand. However, he clearly felt that Zazan's strength seemed to be no less than his own. It was really a ghost. To win this battle, Marshal must maximize his speed advantage. Several experts watching the situation also noticed it and started to whisper to each other. Mrs. Waka leaned against her husband's back and whispered in the commander's ear, "Sir, the opportunity has come." Waka said nothing, but had already raised his large weapon in his hand, waiting for the moment to take advantage. At the same time, in a corner of the hall where no one noticed, a half-hidden figure was whispering to a completely invisible figure. "Is this your plan? Can you defeat King Marshal with just one subordinate without going up?" The invisible person is of course our green Xiao Ming. The half-hidden figure is the image of an elderly woman. She is from the magical race of the elemental race in this universe. It should be an air element. At first glance, Xiao Ming thought it was a reincarnation who had eaten a natural devil fruit. But he was soon disappointed. Natural devil fruits can generally create a master. But this one only has an ethereal figure, but no combat power. This is clearly a son who has not seriously developed his own strength, and is wasting nature's resources. The real Chimera Ant Division leader Zazan was eaten by Xiao Ming in the world of Hunter x Hunter. What appears here is just the appearance of the Shadow Clone's transformation. As for why the Shadow Clone wants to use Zazan's image to challenge King Marshal? It's very simple. Xiao Ming decided to give birth to a bug human with the same abilities and appearance as Zazan in this world. From now on, Zazan will be responsible for the transformation and management of this group of death messengers. Her ability aesthetic reincarnation injection is just suitable for this situation. And Zazan, who is reincarnated as a bug human, will never be a cruel character like the leader of the Chimera Ant Division. Xiao Ming is clearly being lazy and outsourcing his own work. But I believe that the reborn Zazan should be very happy to be the king of this world. I wish you all a happy new year, good fortune, good health, and all the best. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 858. Once again dodging the sweep of Zazan's scorpion tail at high speed, King Marshal retreated more than 10 meters, his breathing already slightly heavy. I secretly sighed in my heart, this cyborg's sword skills are so tightly guarded. Although I am fast, I can't do anything to Zazan's double swords. After all, the double swords are only swung around oneself, the distance is very short, and the speed is slightly slower, so there is still time to defend. The route of his attack is always very long. What's even more troublesome is that Zazan's exoskeleton armor is so damn hard that Marshal hit the armor several times without causing any damage. In fact, this Zazan is the transformation of the Shadow Clone. The exoskeleton armor is not really strong, but Xiao Ming, who is not far away, is constantly replenishing chakra for the Shadow Clone. After fighting for more than 10 minutes, Zazan's condition has not declined at all, and the energy in his body is still full. On the other hand, Marshal made great efforts, then declined, and finally exhausted. After being unable to attack for a long time, his momentum dropped a lot. The continuous high-speed movement also consumed a lot of his physical strength. Although he still looks better on the scene, in fact, this king has completely fallen into a disadvantage. He is not fighting Azazin, but Xiaoming, the mastermind behind it. In a war of attrition, who in this universe can be Xiaoming's opponent with source energy? It can be said that King Marshall was clearly arranged from the beginning. "Dear King Marshall," Zazin suddenly spoke. The wording is still respectful. Marshall was overjoyed, wondering if this woman had realized something, and he didn't realize that he was at the end of his strength. If she were willing to give in now, Marshall would not only be able to keep the throne, but also gain greater prestige. "I definitely wouldn't mind promoting Zazin to the number 2 position in the fleet. As for the future, we'll see." Now that he is still having such a big dream, it can only be said that Marshall's mental quality is really not good. Sure enough, what Zazin said next broke his illusion. "To express my respect for you, I will use my ability to press the bottom of the box." Nanny. Marshall almost went crazy when he heard this. She still has the ability to keep things under control when it comes to feelings, but she hasn't used them yet. Wouldn't that be? Before he could react, Zazin shouted, "Shadow clone!" Swish, swish, swish. Dozens of figures separated from Zazin's body and spread all over the battlefield with a radius of about 100 meters. They all looked like Zazin, and in a blink of an eye, King Marshall was under heavy siege, and everyone was confused. At the same time, almost all the death messengers on the fleet were also confused. Even the weapon in Waka's hand fell to the ground with a clang. What ability is this? Clone technique. Can so many clones be real? They should all be phantoms, right? Suddenly 6 knives came from 3 directions. Marshall didn't have time to think carefully and immediately started to move at high speed to dodge. In less than 3 minutes, he shuttled back and forth among the shadow clones several times before finally stopping. Is it true? After spitting out these 4 words one by one, dozens of wounds suddenly burst open on Marshall's body, and large swaths of blood spurted out from the wounds like spring water. King Marshall died. The whole place was silent for a moment. The battle just now was too fast, and no one could see it clearly. It can be imagined that while King Marshall was moving at high speed, he passed by many of Zazin's clones, and each of them casually chopped him with a knife, and he also received dozens of cuts along the way. If he hadn't been fast enough, he would have been cut halfway, and he would have hiccuped. He is fine now. He suffered many more knives and his death was so miserable. Waka hit his left hand with his right fist. That's it? The speed is restrained by the crowd. It's a pity that it's too late to know now. King Marshall is dead, and Zazin is bound to become the new king. How can a crowd be restrained? At this time, his wife was also stupid. Facing King Marshall, she didn't feel much of a difference, and she still had the confidence to let her husband take his place. But this mysterious reformer Zazin has a much stronger fighting ability than King Marshall. The special skills are even more awesome. It is almost impossible to feel any resistance. Wow! Most of the death messengers knelt down on one knee automatically and consciously, expressing their loyalty to the new king. Wow! The other death messengers reacted and quickly knelt down on one knee. Among them were Commander Waka and his wife. Within a few breaths, all the death messengers in the entire fleet fell to their knees. Seeing this scene, Lu Xiaoming and Elemental clan member Aaron looked at each other and smiled. Everything is left unsaid. In a moment, most of the shadow clones in the battlefield disappeared, leaving only 5 figures of Zazin. One of them walked up to the throne and sat upright. The other 4 conjured a coffin like a magic trick, and then placed King Marshall's body into the coffin. Then the person and the coffin disappeared together. This scene shocked all the death messengers. Many of them are speculating that this kind of disappearance out of thin air is mysterious and unpredictable. Is this the correct way to go to the dark interstellar? What some high-level leaders are thinking is, here I go, it turns out that the dark star really exists. This is what cults are like. The brainwashed believers at the bottom are almost convinced, but most of the top leaders have little confidence in their own teachings. The so-called doctrines are things that can be tampered with at will and used to deceive believers. This is true not only for cults, but also for genuine religions. Otherwise, why would there be so many bad things done by high-level leaders, bishops, priests, and other clergy? It's because they don't believe in their own doctrines that encourage people to be good. If the high-level people in the church are like this, you can imagine how reliable the doctrines they promote can be. These people can tamper with, fabricate, and forge any religious scriptures and history at will. Xiaoming is now a transcendent, and he is still far from the realm of God. However, Xiaoming actually doesn't need any money. When he needs it, he can just conjure it up. At the level of God, how could he covet the wealth of the world? It's nothing more than some people making money under the guise of religion. Having a normal job in the world will not prevent any master from teaching the truth to others. Xiaoming once met a religious person who said that preaching the scriptures is not about holding a conference, wearing sacred clothes, sitting on the stage, and speaking eloquently. The true way to spread the Dharma should be in the fields, just like chatting with old friends, telling people the truth. Xiaoming did not dare to comment on the rightness of his statement, but there is no doubt that such a statement won Xiaoming's heart. Grand ceremonies, gorgeous costumes, and various complicated etiquette are all tricks created by humans. If God cares about these, in Xiaoming's heart, he is not worthy of being called God. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 859. From the moment I saw you, I felt that the future had changed and the prophecy was no longer accurate. But I could never have guessed that you were the savior. In just a few days, you eliminated King Marshall, the scourge of the universe. I hope that under your leadership, the Death Messenger can get on the right track and stop being a disaster to the universe. Aaron, an elemental, flattered Green Xiaoming while hinting and guiding something meaningfully. As a form of life, the elemental people also have life energy. Aaron's life energy shows that her mood is 50-50 now. Half of her is grateful for the death of King Marshall, the other half is worried about the future of the Death Messenger. This man who calls himself King Lu has power far beyond King Marshall. Aaron has no idea whether he is good or bad. What if this is a guy who is more brutal than Marshall? Then even if he finds the surviving Avenger, he may not be able to deal with him. What Aaron doesn't know is that the surviving Avenger Reddick has actually seen Xiaoming a long time ago. Although he had never really fought with any of Xiaoming. However, based on the ability of King Lu to rescue them from the hands of the Death Messenger and return directly to the nameless planet, Reddick did not have the courage to confront Xiaoming. If he knew this elemental tribe member who cared about the world would probably be even more troubled. Although Xiaoming's camp has always been kind and lawful, Aaron did not know this, and he was inevitably worried. Xiaoming did not know how to comfort this meddling elemental tribe member. She was so willing to be frightened, so he could only let her go. After Zazan's shadow clone became the king of the Death Messenger, the Death Messenger's expedition to a certain planet was naturally terminated. The first thing the Queen did was to summon all senior commanders to a meeting. At the meeting, everyone was required to swear allegiance to Zazan. At this time, Zazan had been replaced by the new insect human Zazan. It was no longer the shadow clone. When fighting with King Marshall, Xiaoming sent his shadow clone because he was afraid that Zazan would not be a match for King Marshall. Due to the level restrictions of this world, the new insect human Zazan only has sea-level strength, and does not have the combat power of the Chimera Ant Division leader in the Hunter world. Just born, this new insect human has no combat experience. There are few trump cards, so of course it is his father who fights. Fortunately, his telekinesis and special abilities are still preserved. In addition, he has a small universe and mental power. After careful consideration, Xiaoming did not give Zazan spiritual power. In order to avoid the level of spiritual power being too high, it would raise the evaluation of Zazan's strength in the reincarnation space. During the meeting, the senior leaders of the Death Messenger thought it was just a simple loyalty ceremony, and they would just say it, but they didn't expect to have to sign and seal it. However, it's a small matter. Can signing a signature guarantee loyalty? Too naive. Everyone thinks so. However, they don't understand the mysterious power of telekinesis. The contract signed by everyone is the special ability activated by Xiaoming's lawyer beast. It takes effect immediately after signing. If it is violated, according to the oath of the Death Messenger, the price is death. The lawyer's contract, for the kinder people, the lower the punishment. For the more serious the sins, the stronger the punishment. This is not Xiaoming's deliberate setting, but it is based on Xiaoming's personality. When the ability is formed, it automatically becomes like this. The high-level people of the Death Messenger basically have blood debts on their hands. The lawyer's contract is naturally very restrictive to them. Many ambitious people are restricted by the contract. From the moment they sign their names, they can feel that they are cursed. Once the contract is violated, it will be a very terrible backlash. It is estimated that they will die. Some people accept this fate calmly. Since you can't resist, just enjoy it. Some people are very reluctant, but they have to give in. For example, Commander Wacko and his wife. Looking at their constipated expressions, Xiaoming is very happy. I just like to see you unhappy and helpless. To be honest, Xiaoming has some sympathy for the lower-level Death Messengers. He still regards them as victims and is willing to help them. The higher UPS don't have this treatment. If they weren't worried about not being able to control the army of Death Messengers, most of them would have been killed. Now they have to make amends. However, Xiaoming doesn't intend to let them have an easy time. After Zazan takes the throne, Xiaoming plans to give each of them a sword of rewarding good and punishing evil. The sword of rewarding good and punishing evil is a soul treasure, and it is not restricted by the reincarnation space. It is true that this thing cannot be rated. For a long time afterwards, Xiaoming was busy getting officers of all levels in the Death Messengers to sign contracts. After even the lower-level officers pledged their loyalty, Xiaoming confirmed that the Death Messengers were in Zazan's hands. The higher UPS were also possessed by the sword of rewarding good and punishing evil without exception. After that, the Insect King and Zazan spent several months adjusting Zazan's mind ability, aesthetic reincarnation injection. This ability seems to be similar to Xiaoming's insect evolution needle. But in fact, there is an essential difference. When Xiaoming uses the insect human evolution needle on humans, he always uses it together with the original life fluid. Therefore, in the process of transforming the target into an insect human, most of the energy consumed is provided by Xiaoming. In this way, the survival rate of the target can be guaranteed. But as the leader of the Chimera Ant Division, Zazan will definitely not be as selfless as Xiaoming. And she didn't care about human life at that time. The purpose of developing this mind ability was to obtain stronger Chimera Ant soldiers. So the target of the Shu Queen's transformation consumed her own energy and vitality. Because of this, many humans died during the transformation process. Now the situation is completely different. As a fifth-level insect school among insect humans, Zazan's attitude towards life must naturally be consistent with that of the Insect King. The insect humanization of the Death Messenger is mainly for their loyalty, rather than to obtain powerful warriors. The Queen's mind ability must also be modified accordingly. The final result is death, and most of the energy will be provided by scientific methods to replace the effect of the original liquid of life. And the transformation of insect humanization will also be appropriately strengthened on the premise of preserving the life of the death messenger. After the new ability was confirmed to be formed, Zazan entered a period of rapid transformation. After working for less than 2 days, Zazan, who was originally very happy to become the king, understood the sinister intentions of the insect king. Too tired. On average, she can only launch less than 30 aesthetic reincarnation injections every day. It would take tens of thousands of years to transform these hundreds of millions of death messengers into insect humans. Zazan, you've worked hard. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 860. Catching up with a king like Zhang Xiaoming who specializes in pitting his own children, Scorpion Queen Zazan is unlucky. However, Xiaoming did not completely eliminate his insect nature. While he was still in this world, Green Xiaoming has been helping to transform the death messenger. Considering the miserable life in the future, Zazan forced Xiaoming to transform hundreds of insect people every day. Her confidants are increasing at an unimaginable rate. During this period, there were many death messengers who complained about the increasing number of transformed people in the fleet. However, all middle and senior commanders have been bound by contracts. Without their leadership, the objections of some lower-level soldiers can't make any waves at all. Generally, whoever has doubts will become the next insect man. From the enhanced strength and loyalty, tell other death messengers that humans are really delicious. Xiaoming is not only working hard, at least King Marshall's body was completely absorbed by him. Inherited his ability to extract human souls. This is a mental skill, but it's a pity that Xiaoming couldn't figure out where King Marshall learned it from. Moreover, Xiaoming has learned this skill, but it is not very useful. At most, it can be used to scare people. In order to compensate Scorpion and Zazan for her miserable insect life in the future. Before leaving this world, Green Xiaoming will continue to do the boring thing of transforming the messenger of death into an insect man. During this period, some interesting things happened to Yin Xiaoming and Huang Xiaoming. Let's go back to the time after Yin Xiaoming and his friends left the Hunter spacecraft. The location is in another world. The spaceship King Kong Zhongren did not know that he had passed the boundary of the world while flying, but Xiaoming in the spacecraft could feel the change of the world very clearly. Because in the new world, all of Xiaoming's supernatural energy has returned. How could he not feel it? The return of all strength also means that this world is extremely dangerous. At least there are people at the same level as himself. According to Xiaoming's experience, the world with A-level masters basically has S-level existence. I hope I won't be so unlucky this time. Meow, this world is so comfortable. There will definitely be powerful characters, right? Meow, my claws are thirsty, meow. Catwoman Neferpitou jumped out of Kunlun in a flash. During the days of Star Trek, she was really bored because she couldn't get out of Kunlun. Bid, you should take it easy. You are not allowed to make random moves. Especially, you are not allowed to kill people at will. You are not allowed to cause trouble for the king. The one who criticized the Catwoman righteously was another personal guard Zhang Zhong, 1/6. Looking at the Catwoman who was perfunctory to him, he could now understand the pain of Aliapafu. In the world of Hunter x Hunter, Aliapafu and Neferpitou are both one of the 3 guards of the Chimera Ant King. They are colleagues. As a military strategist and staff officer, Aliapafu is also troubled by the Catwoman with unrestrained thinking. Only when the king is mentioned can the Catwoman be at ease for a while. Among the insect humans, this problem becomes more obvious. Because the fighting power of the insect king Xiaoming is not stronger than these 2 guards. He does not have the strong oppressive power of the Ant King. As a result, Xiaoming is more friendly than majestic in front of them. Zhang Zhong is Xiaoming's biological insect human, and has followed Xiao Ming for the longest time. His loyalty is not discounted at all. He also deeply knows the potential of the king. Although Catwoman is also biological, she inherited many genes of the Chimera ant guard Neferpitou. Although her loyalty is not inferior to Zhang Zhong, her temperament is more offline. In the previous life, the Chimera ant Neferpitou was willing to listen to Alyapfu no matter how naughty he was. In this life, Catwoman is also obedient to Big Brother Zhang Zhong, even if the other party is only 1/6. Speaking of which, Zhang Zhong happened to inherit the ability of Alyapfu King of Flies. Xiao Ming is very suspicious that this is probably a habit imprinted in the soul of Catwoman. Licking her paw with her tongue, Catwoman said to Kurama again. Meow, Xiao Ma, how long will it take for you to recover your strength? I also want to fight with you, meow. Kurama covered his chest and said, I seem to be injured again. I probably won't be able to recover my strength for 300 to 500 years. Mathematical intersection symbol successfully gained Catwoman's contempt. Xiaojia saw that Catwoman's eyes seemed to be looking at him, and quickly waved his hand to refuse. Big sister bid, I don't have A-level strength, don't look at me. Tisk, Catwoman smiled at Xiaojia, who didn't think about making progress. Suddenly, Zhang Ren's voice sounded in the spaceship, warning, warning, an unidentified spaceship appeared ahead. It seems to be hostile. Everyone was alert when they heard this. After crossing the border of the world, they encountered a plot event so soon. Peter Quill has been a bit unlucky recently. As a child kidnapped from Earth by space predators, it was not easy for him to live to his 20s. It is hard to imagine that Yondu, who is very unrefined among the predators, did not hand him over to his employer or eat him. Instead, he raised him up healthily and made him a member of the predators. The so-called predators are equivalent to a mixture of space pirates, mercenaries, and thieves. They will do anything for money. They don't have many bottom lines. Peter Quill was lucky to survive. However, growing up among the marauders, he was not a good person. He basically ate, drank, gambled, smoked, cheated, stole, and did all kinds of bad things. Recently, Yondu took a business. Find a spirit ball for a guy codenamed Broker. The other party offered a very high reward. I don't know what kind of shit luck Peter had, but he actually found the location of the spirit ball first. So Peter gritted his teeth and made up his mind, and simply tricked Yondu to another direction and went to find the spirit ball himself. This was the rhythm of getting rid of Yondu and working alone. As a result, he didn't start well. As soon as he got the spirit ball, a group of people who claimed to be Ronan's men came to snatch it. Pointed at by several guns, Peter had already given in and handed over the spirit ball obediently. Unexpectedly, this group of people would not give up and wanted to take him away. It's really unbearable for uncles, and aunts can't stand it. Peter immediately fought back, relying on his flexible skills and the help of several new friends. They took back the spirit ball, drove Peter's spaceship, and escaped in a narrow escape. They also killed several soldiers of the enemy. They planned to go to Xandar to collect the money and then run away as soon as possible. This Ronan seemed to be a tough guy, so they found a place to hide and enjoy themselves for a while. As a result, before they arrived at Xandar, a spherical spaceship appeared in front of them. Peter and others were very nervous after fighting with Ronan's men. They thought that Ronan's men were coming to intercept them again. So they planned to strike first. Peter's fingers were on the button to fire the artillery.